Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here, and as you can see by this, that thing back there, also this, possibly this as well, and the actual katana, I like samurai stuff, and I also just so happen to like Ghost of Tsushima. So, I love the game. I don't know why. I got all my stuff except for the actual game. I didn't get like the actual thing that I bought. That's so weird. Because I bought like the one that has the, I forgot what that thing is called, but like the metal case. I forgot what it's actually called. Steelbook, there it is. Of all the things I grabbed, I forgot to grab the actual game. Anyway, Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut is coming out in August. Now, we'd heard expansion rumors for a little while now. If you've been kind of hearing some news, they've been talking about it for a good minute. And I was like, okay, it seems like it makes sense. It seems like it could work. I've heard rumors, we'll have to wait till it comes out officially, or, until they at least give us a little bit more news. But I'd heard rumors that it was like, oh, it's kind of in the same vein of, Uncharted Lost Legacy, where it was like, okay, not as long as the main campaign, but substantial enough, same as Spider-Man Miles Morales. That seems to be like a new big thing for PlayStation games, where it's like, okay, we have our main campaign, did that, we'll do some minute tweaks here and there, kind of do a little bit of upgrade. It'll be like 1.5 of the game, and then 2 will come out eventually. So I'd been hearing about it, and I was like, okay, that would be cool. I think they could pull it off. I could see that at the end of the year. That's what I was thinking. I was like, they already did, full campaign, of course. They did free multiplayer. That was, a decent chunk of time after. It was like, not as long as we were expecting. Also, it was free, so nobody saw that one coming. It was like, okay, the game's been out for a little bit, and then they just kind of hit us. I think that was closer to the end of the year. And so I was like, all right, yeah, I could kind of see them doing that again, especially if it's another story-based expansion. I was like, yeah, I could see them doing that, and it would be closer to the end of the year, because multiplayer also has a story. They had, even when it first started, it didn't have everything, because they didn't have the raid stuff, which I never actually got to test out before my PS Plus ended, so I'm ending up getting back into that, because I think they're adding more to the multiplayer as well. But this expansion coming out, and then they're like, yeah, it's coming out in August. I was like, I did not see that one coming. I was not expecting that at all. I was like, yeah, end of the year makes a lot of sense with everything that they've already put out for the game, the stuff that they've done, and so they clearly were working on this for quite some time. And I guess we probably didn't expect it to happen, especially with ye old virus, if you will. A lot of things changed, and so of course even the push of the game, maybe they were already done. I think they technically pushed this game because they had pushed The Last of Us, and maybe that's just how they kind of wanted things to happen. So I'm not sure. It was only like a 2-week difference anyway between the two games. It was like I had to basically, it was like Last of Us needs to be done, and then Ghost of Tsushima was coming out. Personally, my favorite game. I know that was the whole thing. Everyone wanted Ghost of Tsushima to win everything over The Last of Us. I enjoyed The Last of Us. I don't have to get into all that. I know a lot of people completely despise that game. I personally loved it, but Ghost of Tsushima is basically like my soul manifested into video game form, which you guys can check out on my gaming channel, by the way, Invisible High. I haven't put anything on there in a minute, but Invisible High is like, some gaming stuff. But I love the game. Really enjoy it. The photo mode is phenomenal, and there's going to be some stuff coming up from that. If you guys are interested, I'm going to start doing some stuff on this channel for photo mode and games, and Ghost of Tsushima is definitely the place to start because it has so many amazing options. But I'm excited. I cannot wait for this. Like, I know the whole big thing as of now is the price for the director's cut going from the really weird kind of blog post where it's like, if you don't have the game, I think it's $60 or something like that. Like the director's cut as itself, I believe it's 60, possibly 70. I don't really remember. That's not the bracket I'm in, so that's irrelevant to me. And then it was like, okay, you can also have the director's cut on PS4, and then you can upgrade to the PS5 version of the director's cut, and that'll be like $10. Or you can go from the PS4 version, base PS4, which is what I have, base PS4, Ghost of Tsushima, regular cut, I guess, and then you can upgrade from that to the PS5 director's cut, and that would be $30. Or if you go from the PS4 director's cut to the PS5 director's cut, I think that was the $10 one, but there's something in there was like $20. But I think basically the DLC itself is like $20. So I know a lot of people are like super pissed about the whole $30 thing if you go from base Ghost of Tsushima, which I think most people would be because so many people ended up picking up that game. A lot of people are going to be in that bracket where it's like, oh, well, I'm already, I'm going from base PS4 to PS5, or, even if some people have the PS5 version, they would be upgrading and going into the director's cut version, and I'm okay with it. I know that it's been this weird iffy thing where people are like, why are they charging people for it? And I think this, oddly enough, speaking of Miles Morales and all that stuff, I think this is in the same vein of Spider-Man. So a lot of people were super pissed, and I was one of the few people that was like, I think it's worth the money. Like, they were like, Spider-Man PS4 remastered, is going to be a separate thing. It's not going to be like, oh, you get a free upgrade to the remaster version. It would have been cool if they did that, but it was clear just from the information that they put out there that the remaster version was going to be different. They talked about like new textures and stuff. Unfortunately, that new Spider-Man, it costs money to do that, but that was an unfortunate thing to pay for. But they put some new stuff in the game, and it was like actual new things were being put into that new version of the game, which is why it was considered remastered and not just the PS5 version of Spider-Man. So I knew even then, I was like, okay, I think there's going to be some significant changes that are worth the money. I forgot what the cost was for that. I believe it was $20 or $30 there as well. But this is different. This, I think, adds way more stuff than, a crappy version of Spider-Man's face. No offense to that dude. I just hate the face. I just don't like it as much as the original face. But I think they're adding a whole lot more, considering they're doing haptic feedback, which I think is great. They're doing the actual Japanese lip sync, which I think is very cool. They're talking about, the stuff for the quiver thing, I think was probably a little bit easier for them to implement. But there's some elements that are only in the PS5 version, of course, haptic feedback, naturally, it's only PS5. I believe the lip sync is actually only in the PS5 director's cut as well. I could be wrong about that. There's some stuff that's in there, but I think it's more than just the haptic feedback. And I also think more than haptic feedback, and obviously the actual 4K, because I know Ghost of Tsushima was upgraded. They had the 60 frames thing, but now they're doing the targeted 4K. I hate that, but 4K targeted at 60 frames per second. Maybe like 2 more years and we're out of that. Maybe not, because I think God of War is obviously not coming out this year. Maybe like 3 more years we'll be out of that. We'll officially be out of that targeted 4K. It'll be 4K 60 frames period. I'm not that much of a stickler about it. I just hate seeing it where it's just like 4K targeted 60 frames per second. I shouldn't do that. It is targeted. It's just one of those weird things where it's like, I kind of just hate seeing that. It's just a tiny bit, but it's not that big of a deal. And for me, I'm more of a 4K guy than 60 frames anyway. Mostly because of the photo mode stuff. Admittedly, some games it'll be I'll want more 60 frames, and other games it'll be like this. If it has photo mode, I'm gonna care more about like how good does that look. So that's just where I am as far as like Ghost of Tsushima. Games like Miles Morales, when I eventually, it's not like I got a PS5. Eventually, when that happens, I like to think I'll enjoy 4K. But especially coming from someone, I have a base PS4, so that's the bracket I'm in. I'm in the $30 range, which I guess technically I'm gonna get the DLC by itself anyway, since it is available on PS4. So I'll be paying the $20 for that, and then eventually when I get a PS5, I will pay the extra $10. It'll probably be so long from now that I won't even think about the $10 thing, because it won't be all together. It won't be $30. I'm gonna get the DLC for 20, and I think it'll be more than enough, just based on the trailer, where it was like, here's this segment with the temple, here's this segment with the trees. I want to say that was lavender. I have no idea, but I think lavender grows up. I don't think it drops down. But the point is, pretty purple trees and stuff. Then they had the temple. They had the segment where he was like, kind of just swinging, and it seemed like almost like a graveyard a little bit. So I like a boat graveyard. And then the story element is like, he goes over, it's like, it was supposed to be just the Mongol stuff, and he goes to the other smaller island, and then he ends up running into someone from his past, and he deals with some emotional trauma. And I believe in the trailer, they show a young version of Jin as well, so we're gonna get, possibly, I could be wrong about this if I, misremembering, but possibly flashbacks, young Jin. We're gonna have some sort of element to, actually seeing his past. I know we're gonna see his past, so it may or may not have been in the trailer, so I know we're going to see it. But who knows how they're going to do it. Like, it seemed like from what I saw, if I'm remembering correctly, it seemed like just the way it looked with Young Jin, that it may or may not have actually been like a little playable segment as well. So I would like that, even though the playable segment in the original game wasn't much either. It was technically like you go from point A to point B, and then like any actual action from the Jin flashbacks were all done in the cutscene, so it's not like it'll be actually fighting. I would love to see that. I think the only time was probably the actual training from the beginning of the game, but other than that, you don't actually do any real combat as Young Jin. I would love to see that. I would like to see that for sure. They say that this starts up after Act 2, and I'm trying to remember exactly what happens there, and I won't spoil it for anyone, but I do believe there is a very specific thing that happens, and I'm curious if this past trauma stuff kind of ties into that element of Jin's storyline from the main campaign. Because I was like, if it starts, or maybe it was, I think they said after Act 2, or maybe it was the beginning of Act 2, but I think they said it was after. I could be wrong. Once again, I'm just going off of my pure excitement, and also that was like a day or two ago, possibly 3 by the time you guys actually end up seeing this video. But I'm just excited for this one. I'm very excited for this coming out. I'm like I said, I'm in the camp of I totally understand it. It being $30 for, for me going from base PS4 to the PS5 director's cut version, I think it makes sense. If they're charging $20, especially considering, I mean, let's face it, the multiplayer was extensive. That was not garbage where it was like, oh, they threw in some free multiplayer and it was kind of like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. That was legit. Like, that was some legit stuff, and it was free the entire way. You unlock the costumes, period. You just get points, you unlock costumes, you can go through, well, like a dozen story modes, you can go through like basically what is kind of like their horde modes, and then they added the raids after that stuff. So I'm like, that in itself was probably worth $20 to $30 considering how much content was actually in there, and it was multiplayer. And now they're adding more to that. They're adding a brand new Iki Island expansion, which seems fairly big to me. If that's where the $20 is going, that's not garbage. That's not going to be garbage. As much as they gave us for free in the multiplayer, if they're like, what if we charge like $20? I'm not expecting like, it's not going to be the same length as the campaign. But if they're charging $20, I would not be surprised if it is on the same level of like Uncharted Lost Legacy or Miles Morales. I think they're gonna have a lot of side content as well. I think it would be more in the vein of Miles Morales than it would be Uncharted, because Uncharted doesn't do like side missions in an open world. But if it's more like Miles Morales, where you have a main set story that if you do kind of just do the story, then you'll probably brush through in like maybe 4 to 6 hours. But that's still a decent chunk of time. And Miles Morales was like $40. So if they're doing that and they're charging 20, I expect it to be on that same scale, simply due to the fact that they gave away the multiplayer for free. And that was hours of content. Even if you literally did every single thing one time, I think you'd at least get like 2 hours. Maybe not 2 hours, because the stories weren't like the longest thing ever. It didn't take forever to get through those. But there's just different elements to it. Plus, the story modes even change up. When you play through the same levels, you'll get different weapons. Like the time of day changes and stuff like that. It'll probably still be night, so the time of day might look different. But the sky will be different. I think some of the enemies can be different. Some of the enhancements you get, like for the magic elements, that stuff will be different. You can go through one level multiple times, and things will actually be a little bit different. So, excuse me, they put a lot into that, and that was all free. So I'm like, if they're charging $20, I'm more than willing to pay the $20 for the DLC. And I think that's where people are confused, because I know everyone wants everyone wants like the free upgrade. Xbox has like smart delivery, and it's like everything's just you just upgrade to that next version. And we've already had a couple of things. It's really only been on the PlayStation side of things where it's like, oh, we can't do this, or you don't get a free upgrade with that. But I feel like every time there hasn't been a completely free upgrade, it's been more than justified. Like I said with Spider-Man, despite the fact that everyone hated the new face and nobody would have wanted to pay extra for that, there were new things put into that. So I was like, it's justified. They did actually put more work into it. It wasn't just like, what if we just like turn RTX on and then, oh, look at that, it's 4K. They did more than that. They literally did Japanese lip sync. That's not tiny. That's not a small thing for a game that big. There is no way, shape, or form that was just like, oh yeah, it took like a minute and a half. We just threw on Japanese lip sync. That's not what they did. That is real work for a game that has as much content as it does from the main mission alone. The story campaign alone in that game is a decent length, and then you have like all the friends and stuff, like the other side characters. Every one of them has like their own little mini storyline that you can go through that spans throughout the entire game. It goes from the different islands, and it's like, that's not cheap to do Japanese lip sync for so many. Like, there's like so many freaking characters in that game. That's not a small thing. So that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work for them to do. So that was legit. The haptic feedback stuff, I'm sure they had to put a decent chunk of work in on that. Actual 4K graphics and not just kind of up-resed or whatever it was. I don't have a PS5, so I don't know the exact scaling and stuff like that. But I do know that there was no actual graphical difference, so it didn't really go from like PS4 or PS4 Pro to like, oh man, it's in 4K. It wasn't like that. It was really just the 60 frames thing. So them adding the 4K in was something that they ended up doing, through the director's cut. So I'm excited for this new version. I would love to. I wish I had a PS5 so bad. That was actually what I was waiting for, because I was like, I've only beaten the game once. As much as I love the game, I've only beaten it once. And I was like, well, when I get a PS5, different times, it was just like, I'm going to get a PS5. During those days, I was like, well, that's when I'll replay Ghost of Tsushima. That's when I'll replay The Last of Us, because I wanted to have 60 frames. I wanted the upgraded graphics and all that stuff. God of War, everything. I was just like, I'll wait to replay like my favorite games on PS5. And I'm going to wait a long effing time, I guess. But I'm gonna play the Iki Island expansion. I'm very excited for that. I would love to know your thoughts on this. Obviously, the $30 element. I would love to know what frame of reference you guys are even in at this point. Do you have a PS5? Do you not have a PS5? Do you care at all about the extra price? Like I said, for me personally, them doing the $10 upgrade from, if you have the director's cut at least on PS4, going from PS4 to PS5, it's only $10 extra. I think that $10 does, like I said, lean towards the actual 4K integration, the haptic feedback. Honestly, I think the Japanese, like, I don't mean to like really harp on this for people that don't really get it. That is a huge effing deal. Like I said, there's so many people, there's so many hours upon hours of content. That is such a difference. I think that alone is worth like the $10 price tag, where it's like, if you're gonna upgrade, it's an extra $10 just because we actually went through and did like the Japanese voice sync matching. That's not cheap. That ain't a cheap thing. And for charging $10 for that, and then, you know, haptic feedback in the 4K, it's more than worth it. Like, and clearly, every video I've seen, people are like, I wanted that. And I was waiting, like, when they introduced it, I was like, boom, that's it, Kurosawa mode. That's what I get. I get Japanese, you get your full black and white, and it's actually matched to the Japanese lip sync. It's perfect. Like, and I've been waiting. I was waiting to do my second playthrough. I wanted to do Kurosawa mode. And I'm like, well, even if I play through the second time, I'm gonna wait till I get the PS5 version to do full Kurosawa mode, all Japanese, full lip sync, all black and white. So I'm probably gonna wait a little bit longer because of the whole crazy PS5 issue. But I was super excited. As soon as I saw that, I was like, sweet, that's perfect. Like, you get full Kurosawa mode now. So I was very excited about that. But I think it's worth it if you have the base PS4. Like I said, the real thing is that the $20, you can spend the $20 and just get the Iki Island expansion, and you're good. I think most people that like I said are probably in my camp, where once you get that, you'll do that, you'll go through it and all that. Who the F knows? It'll probably still be the end of the year, maybe even next year, before most of us end up getting a PS5. And by then, if you still care about playing Ghost of Tsushima, you can just easily be like, yeah, I'll spend $10. That was like 8 months ago when I was worried about that, and now it's $10 for me. It was $20 for the expansion, and now 8 months later, I'll spend $10 to upgrade to the PS5 version. It'll be nothing. I think for most of us, we won't even get the opportunity. We wish we had the opportunity to complain about the $30. I wish I could. I don't have a PS5, but I'm excited for it. I'm definitely excited for it. I'm happy for this expansion. I'm glad it, you know, if it's $20, like I said, if they're actually charging for it, considering what they gave us for free, it's worth it. Even if they were charging the $20 and it wasn't $20 worth, just say it's $10 for this and $10 for the online. If you never played the online, then you're unfortunately missing out. I highly recommend it. It's really good. But I'm sure this will be $20 worth of content, if not more, realistically. But I'm excited. We'll love to know your thoughts on it. I can't wait for this. I can't believe it's in August already. The rumors were just all over the place. This and Dead Space. It's been an exciting time for me. But the rumors were all over the place, and then the official trailer came out. I was like, oh, director's cut, cool. August. I was like, okay. I thought it was going to be in the trailer, like, oh, they might talk about it and say, like, it's coming out, you know, later. But they're like, no, the whole thing, director's cut coming out in August. The DLC is done. It's coming out in August. All this is in August. And I was just like, I'm supposed to be playing No More Heroes 3, but Ghost of Tsushima might have to come first. I forgot what day No More Heroes comes out. But anyway, I'm excited. Would love to know your thoughts on all things Ghost of Tsushima. Happy, not happy. Do you have a PS5 version? What is that world like? What is it like to have a PS5? I would like to know. But all in all, I would love to know your thoughts on everything. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.